welcome back. Another episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks, episode 94, fresh off the ending of the 2021 NFL regular season. We got myself, Dakota, Timothy, of course, and Nick. Welcome back.
Happy to be here. Happy to chop it up. Started the season, landed the season together.
There you go.
Nice.
So gents, do we have any?
Before we start, can I ask, what is our
already
emotion tone right now? I'm sorry, but it's a big, where are your emotions at right now? We are starting playoffs. The Eagles are in the playoffs, which is exciting. Yeah. But it is now the end of football, regular season wise. I was in a weird spot here. Am I excited because we're getting the playoffs and the real stuff, or is it kind of a bummer because now there's no more regular season, no more NFL red zone, and now we're moving on to the final weeks?
I mean, I'm excited. I mean, it's always sad when football ends, but I mean, playoff football is some of the best product of sports you'll see, because unlike how, college does their bowl game seeding, these games will actually be competitive for the most part. So you're getting, teams that are fairly matched up. Like, I think 49ers and Dallas is going to end up being a pretty good game. You get good matchups. Like, am I a little worried about the Eagles? Sure. But am I happy they made playoffs? Absolutely. I'm not expecting much, but yeah, I'm excited for the playoffs. And I mean, season's going to end sometime. So
it's true.
I think this year is really exciting too, because I don't remember a year where it's been such a wide open path to the Super Bowl. Like, I really do. I mean, the number one seed in the NFC lost week 1 to the fucking Detroit Lions, and the number 1 seed in the AFC lost to a team that threw 3 passes in a game. So you really have such a wide, and I can't remember a year where it wasn't, hey, it's the 1 seed, it's everybody else fighting to lose to them in the NFC, the conference championship, or 2 teams. This year it could honestly go. I mean, I know we'll talk about the Eagles and all that, but if you're a Philly fan and you look at the season and you say, we had 3 picks coming into the year, 1 the Colts, who everybody thought was going back to playoffs, 1 being Miami, who some people thought was ascending, and then ours was the only one that ended up being a playoff first round pick.
Yeah, nobody would have thought that.
Nobody would have expected that. And that's such an exciting, and I just so excited to see what this week of practice looks like for all the young guys, what the week of preparation looks like, getting to go, you get to stay on the East Coast, which is nice. You're just going, down to Florida, and not that you're playing with house money, because, I wouldn't say there's not nothing to lose, but you're going up against the GOAT. And what a way. Imagine if you could say, that's your first playoff victory. It's just so exciting. Jalen's 23 and Tom Brady's, 44 years old, and they're about to battle it out in the NFL playoffs.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, last year, Washington went against Brady. It was the hardest game he played in the playoffs. Heineke, I honestly think, was given the chance to start this year solely off of that game. I think that obviously Fitzpatrick got hurt, but how good they looked, that young team with no chance going against Brady and this dominant team, kind of reminds me of what the Eagles are doing right now. I still feel better. I don't think the Buccaneers are nearly as strong due to injuries and stuff as they were last year. And I actually kind of like the matchup against them between, the other options. Who knows? The teams, they're definitely banged up. They're not as healthy as they were. They're not at full speed. So we'll see. You never know. If we can run the ball, keep the ball out of Brady's hands, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that worries me about facing Brady is how quick he gets rid of the ball, because that's been the Eagles' Achilles heel on defense. Is they play so far back coverage wise that they leave the middle of the field open, and if Brady gets rid of the ball in 1 second, 1.5 seconds, then he's going to be cooking all day. So we'll see. I don't hate the matchup, honestly. I know a lot of people. I think the line is +9 or something. They're not getting any shot, but
I think we have a good strong chance, mostly because the Buccaneers are banged up. But even we ripped Gannon pretty much all season about how he doesn't blitz, he's not very aggressive. That's the style of defense you got to play against Brady. You got to get him with the 4 guys. You blitz him, he's going to kill you. So I'm not saying we have the D line like the Saints, who showed how to do it, with 4 guys, but it's the strategy you have to take. And he's missing some weapons, so hopefully we can hold him in coverage and see what happens. Just the real thing's going to come down to running the ball and killing the clock, keeping away from him.
Yeah, and I think it's can't be underscored how hard it is to beat one team twice in a season.
Yeah.
We just don't. You just don't see it that often. And honestly, remember we talked about that was the like most lopsided close game we've ever seen. We played them earlier in the year, and you got to think about it. They were a significantly healthier team at that point, and we were a significantly worse team at that point. We weren't running the ball.
Oh, of course.
We looked terrible. So like we're trending in one direction, they're trending in another direction. And if there's ever a time you could look past a team, it's that first round.
Yeah.
So you kind of go in there saying like if you can control the ball, win the turnover battle, you got a shot. You got a puncher's chance.
Hey, this was the matchup I wanted, to be honest with you. With all the injuries they have, I know Brady's the X factor, but the injuries they have is not something to ignore. I see them as weaker than what they were in the beginning of the season. I think you hit it on nail on the head with we're going up, they're going down. When we played them the beginning of the season, they were rolling. They looked like they were going to repeat easy. Obviously, they've had injuries and Antonio Brown meltdown since then, so it's not the same team. It's definitely not the same team.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, two of their top three receivers are gone. Godwin his ACL, Antonio, his CTE comes through too hard, and the team is just, Leonard Fournette. Is he even going to play in the first round, or is it just Lev Bell? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, Leonard Fournette is huge. He's been an impact player all year for them.
Yeah,
I mean, even they think if their secondaries had injuries all year. I don't see them clearing all these guys, and they're all playing 100%. Mike Evans has had a hamstring issue he's been dealing with. Hopefully, you get him at the right time. Hopefully, this is Brady's not going to keep him out of any game, but I feel listen, puncher's chance. Give me something good. Give me something to look positive. Just don't go out there and get blown out. Give me something to build off of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll get blown. And I feel like it's a good point. I think they're trending, and whereas the Packers are getting healthy, and they're going to get scary once they get all those defenders back.
They got the extra weeks.
Yeah, you have the Buccaneers trending on and downwards because they don't have. I mean, they still have Brady. This is very reminiscent of like old school Brady when he had literally nobody and he just had scrubs at receiver and whatever and scat running backs but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But before we get too much more into that, just wanted to look back at Week 18 because it was pretty wild. Honestly, the three most important games went into overtime, which is pretty crazy. But it all started because the Jaguars, who had no business of winning, decided they wanted to beat Carson Wentz and the Colts and sent them home, which is hilarious.
Listen, we've all as Eagles fans have suffered through some real Carson Wentz heartbreak and heartbreakers.
Yeah.
What he did to Indianapolis this past week is something that we have never seen. That was just ridiculous.
I mean, they had to do was win one of their last two games, and they lost the Raiders, and then they lost to the Jaguars. They weren't even in the Jaguars game, from what I saw.
That's what's the worst part.
Yeah, I think if you really like look at all of the picture leading into the season, Wentz demands the trade. He goes to the one destination where I was like, if he's going to resurrect his career, it's going to be in Indy. He's got Frank Reich. He's got a great line. He's got a top ascending running back. He's got a solid defense. And old man Rivers, good old Philip, brought him to the playoffs last year with one leg and maybe one Achilles. So you're thinking, okay, you put a younger quarterback, more athletic, better arm. They got to win, 12 games. They got to win one more than they would Rivers. And second week of the season, Jim Irsay is already talking shit about how upset he is that Wentz isn't vaccinated and all this. Well, sure enough, they're 9-5, just need one more win, and all of a sudden he gets COVID, misses the whole Raiders week. And this, I think, is going to start coming up, as they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. Misses the whole Raiders week. They lose at home. Then you got to go into the 2-win Jaguars. This should be when you're in, you're good. We'll forgive everything. And I took a screenshot. I think I sent it to our group checks. With 3:08 left in the third quarter, Jacksonville up 22-3. One of these guys is the guys you've been telling me is an MVP caliber quarterback, and one of these guys is a rookie. And one of them had 23 for 32 for 223 and 2 touchdowns, and one is 5 of 12 for 70 yards, a pick and a fumble.
Yeah, listen, I think what's even worse for Wentz is he wasn't the MVP Wentz, but had they won that game against Jacksonville, I think ultimately all of Indy is very excited with Wentz as their franchise quarterback. I think everyone looks at Wentz as, he got out of that terrible situation, Philly. He's back. He's got it all. Like, I feel like the narrative was going his way the whole season. And then just, man, all you had to do was beat the Jacksonville. Their own fans showed up in clown costumes to protest their team. Like, what are you doing? What does that say about you when you can't beat the team that their fans are protesting against?
Yeah.
There's been some wild and painful losses and surprise losses. That's got to be the biggest one. In that situation, the team that you were going against, I've been telling Dakota since they fired Urban, I thought the Jaguars just kind of put a bow on the season and gave up. I'm just shocked that they lost that one.
And what a feeling. They win the game, and then after that, it's, hey, you guys got the number 1 overall pick, so you get to go out with a win. It didn't hurt your
double win.
You didn't hurt your draft stock, and you know it was amazing because I watched Carson try to do so much in Philly, and that was a knock I had with Dakota a lot, is he tries to extend more than he should.
Yeah.
And did you know in the last 8 games of the Colts season, he only passed for over 200 yards twice? This guy who's supposed to be a great quarterback, like, he turned into such a game manager.
Yeah.
Such a game manager. Like, you're throwing under 200, 6 of 8 games. When Jalen does that, I'd hear people freak out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the game.
Yeah, but he makes up for it with his legs. Carson's just handing it off to someone else with legs.
Yeah, exactly. The Colts figured out who the offense was there, and they went to John Taylor. But, I mean, even more crazy is the game, obviously, Jags win, which no one expects, and sets up the crazy situation where we could just have a tie in Sunday Night Football and see 2 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I for a minute, I was like, when I was watching the Sunday Night Football game, I was like, is there a chance that this is rigged? Like, what are the odds that, like, the most ridiculous scenario of a tie happens? And I'm like, I mean, obviously people were saying that on like Twitter and shit. But you like look at it, you're like, how hard it is to like rig a football game? Like, players have to like purposely drop and catch balls and make the right, plays and all that. Like, it was crazy, but I love
still unreal to see that game going to overtime and how close it was
to get to that. So the Steelers and Ravens played also into overtime. Steelers came out winning that one. And then that set up like Raiders and Chiefs, or Raiders and Chargers. They literally could have just kneeled the ball for however many times, just tied the game.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Justin Herbert, man, I mean, I'd rather see him in the playoffs than, Big Ben crutches. But for him to, make, what was it, like 4th and 19 and then 4th and goal?
10, he did it like 3 times on that whole drive.
Yeah,
that whole drive was beautiful.
No time left on the clock, 4th and goal, winner go home, tie or go home, and throws it to Mike Williams in the end zone, goes into overtime. Raiders kick a field goal, Chargers kick a field goal. And then it looked like the Raiders were just going to, take a couple runs, then let the clock run out and take the tie. And then the Rams called a timeout with 30 seconds left because they only had 10 personnel on the field. And the Raiders were like,
oh, is that what it was?
I think that's what I was hearing.
Okay.
And the Raiders were like, fuck you guys. Let's run a couple more plays.
Yeah, exactly.
Take the game-winning field goal on. And Carlson's been a hell of a kicker. I had him in fantasy. Yeah. He's one of the better kickers this season. And they sent the Chargers packing. So wild that the Chargers, and then who was in the NFC that missed the playoffs too? I forget. Or maybe I'm thinking of the Colts. But yeah, Colts and Chargers. And it was funny because I saw, who was it? Rich Eisen was like 3-4 weeks ago, the Colts were the team nobody wanted to face in the playoffs, and now they're the team that one is actually going to face in the playoffs because they didn't make it. But,
very true.
Yeah, it was wild.
That Raiders Chargers game was a completely insane. I did want to touch on this because obviously I had stuff that came up during the season preview, so I didn't get to defend my stuff. But I was listening to the episode today, and I know Nick in particular was losing his mind over my prediction that I thought the Raiders were going to finish better than the Chargers. And while it was very close, and obviously I could have never in a million years predicted what the Raiders went through, I am still sticking behind Justin Herbert is a much better quarterback than Derek Carr, and he's still a very good quarterback. And I think that drive proved it more or less, perfectly. My biggest issue was I didn't trust the Chargers offensive line. I didn't know Rashawn Slater would be, all pro his rookie year. And I didn't really trust that defense because they lost Ingram, they lost Hayward, and Derwin James gets hurt all the time. Mm-hmm. And another part of that was I thought Staley was not a good hire. I didn't really like him with the Rams. Really? I thought he got blessed. Yeah, you know what? I was down on him last year when he was with the Rams in the playoffs. I thought he was just blessed with a defense with Aaron Donald, and how hard is it to look good when you have Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. And then with the Raiders, I liked them coming in. It wasn't Derek Carr. It was like that defense. I liked the Yannick, the Max Crosby duo, and then, they pulled Hayward. But just in that game, I don't know what Staley does in that timeout. I really think the Raiders were going to play to get the tie. And then he calls the timeout. They're like, fuck it, we'll run, get 10 more yards. Why not kick it at this point? Just get the win. It's in my home crowd. Why not hype up the crowd? But, obviously their season finished very closely. But I think Herbert just proved even more how dominant he was. I mean, Max Crosby was bending over Storm Nelson nearly on every pass rush. The guy was getting heat on every play. Still managed to convert 3 4th downs and throw that ridiculous touchdown pass the drive before. So really an incredible performance. I mean, it just started. Where Derek Carr, I saw him miss numerous throws all game. Had he made a couple of them, it wasn't even going to be close. I know he missed Dan Waller for the touchdown mid. Even the one they got a pass interference where Zay Jones got tackled and he was 40 yards away from the ball. Somehow they got blessed with the pass interference on that. But hey, crazy game. I did think the NFL might be rigged, and we were going to see a tie for both teams going to playoffs. But
I did turn the game off down when they were up 12, and I saw a tweet going, Steelers can rest easy. There's a 12-point differential, and then all of a sudden, I looked at my phone maybe an hour later, and I was like, wait, what? Like, crazy. How did this happen?
Could you imagine Ben Roethlisberger, who Hall of Fame career, legendary career, sitting at home, am I going to play football again, or are we going to be in the playoffs? It just was getting ridiculous at that point. You're just talking this legendary Hall of Famer's career might go on one more playoff game, or he might be done. Just wild scenario that we've never seen. And I kind of was rooting for the tie, but still, I don't care if you had 10 men on the field. It looked like the Raiders were going to kick the field goal. You should have they looked like they were just going to kneel and take the tie. I just let them go.
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, that was really then the other scenarios were if the 49ers had lost, they also won in overtime. If they had lost,
the Saints would have got in.
Yeah, the Saints would have got in, which is also wild because they haven't had a quarterback since week 5. It was a lot of teams rested. Then you have teams like the Giants, who I don't know if you guys saw, they had a 3rd and 9 at their own 10-yard line.
Best play call I've ever seen.
And they ran a QB sneak. They're like, oh, we don't trust Jake Fromm to throw the ball. Okay, first of all, you're not going anywhere. You have four wins. You're not you're losing the game. All right. Why not just let the kid sling it? No, let's run a QB. I've never seen a QB sneak on 3rd and 9 in your own territory.
I will tell you though, I have been so down on that team for several years. And Joe Judge keeping his job, he must have some lewd pictures of the owner or something, because this is just, I don't understand how they keep him employed.
No, yeah, I think McAdoo was better than Judge. Judge, nothing about, he had that whole players coach thing going like Dan Campbell does, but I feel like it was fake or he just can't get it going. Maybe he just doesn't have the gusto to be a head coach, but nothing he's ever done. I was like, wow, that was impressive. He's a good coach. Never once.
I definitely think Joe Judge has been handicapped by Dave Gettleman, who on Black Friday, in our Black Monday around the NFL, I appreciate the Giants that were nice enough to say Dave Gettleman is retiring. No. Dave Gettleman was getting his ass fired. They let him kindly say he was retiring. I know, and there was one quote, like I said, on the season preview that I was listening today, Dakota, and I quote, doesn't think the Giants are terrible going into the season.
I did say this, yes.
I was like, that's an interesting point we're going to highlight and bring that back up.
Well, you know what though, if you're Gettleman and you just signed a free agent wide receiver to a $72 million contract, and you drafted another wide receiver in the 1st round, and Lane Johnson caught more touchdowns than the two of them combined this year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's a problem. They caught 0 touchdowns. Galladay and Tony caught 0. That's a $72 million receiver and a 1st round pick. So we can talk about Howie Roseman, and I love to shit on him as much as anybody else, But you want to talk about a whiff? That is an all-timer.
Tony had more ejections than he did touchdowns too.
Really, like it's the laundry list of them. The Nate Solder signing was terrible. Daniel Jones does not look like a good quarterback. I mean, they're stuck with him because what else are you going to do? But like even the Will Hernandez, another draft pick to save the offense line, was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned the Galladay, the Tooney. Like I don't think this guy has made a good signing yet.
Yeah.
To give them a little bit of credit, I thought that the offseason was like a better offseason for them. They brought in new players, and they were good players that they brought in. It's just they just didn't mesh with the team. They didn't fit.
Because the coach doesn't deserve to be a coach. And I've been saying for multiple years, I hated the Daniel Jones pick at the time. And I've said for multiple years, he is not an NFL quarterback. He is not good. I don't see why did he get the nickname Danny Dimes? He sucks. He should be picking up dimes on the street.
It's tough when you're complimenting their front office is having a successful season by. They brought in good football players who all suck now.
They did suck, I mean,
that's a plus. Instead of just bringing in shitty players that are terrible. At one point they were good, but now they're terrible.
I think we all knew that Galladay was just cashing out. Like that was a just money signing. But I really did think that their defense was going to be better. Like they had some good players. Like Leonard Williams, I still thought was a beast, and they had some promising secondary players, and then it just all collapsed.
But Dakota, think about this. I will agree with you. We said that Galladay was going to sign a big contract to a terrible team. He was going to go get paid. He was going to go get paid. We knew that. But here's the issue I have with the Giants. Why didn't you force feed them the ball? I see the Eagles try to get Rager the ball more than they make a point of the Giants getting Kenny Galladay the ball.
Yeah,
that can't happen.
Yeah.
Like that just can't happen.
I mean, you can't get open is one thing. Your quarterbacks, they can't throw the ball. But again, I agree. You're spending all this money on this guy. You know what? Give him 20 targets a game. Just to get your money's worth.
Oh.
Yeah. If it's me, I'm forcing balls in there. I don't care. 15 passes a game. You're getting 15. Yeah. And if you catch 4 for 15 because the throws suck, well, you're getting 15 targets. You should be leading by a wide margin in targets if you're getting that type of dough.
True.
I probably agree with you. Going on, I did want to get our thoughts though, since we did mention it. We are recording on Black Monday. Judge stays, Gettleman retires. I think was it Fangio got fired, Nagy got fired, and Pace, I believe, was also fired. The GM for Chicago. I think they cleaned house.
Yeah, really.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was Nagy.
Pace is gone too.
He was in the running for GM of the year like 2-3 years ago, and now he's gone.
No, he has to go. The Vikings cleared house. Zimmer and Spielman, I believe, is the GM there. Flores is a big surprise. Flores doesn't make sense. Obviously, we're hearing different stuff come out now that maybe he didn't get along with the GM and Tua. That's the only thing that can make logical sense to me because he is a very good coach. Like you took a team that was dead 1-7, then rally off 8 wins to finish with a winning record. That is incredible coaching. But I think more stuff will come out with that to explain that, I guess.
Whoever in our group shared that thing about him not meshing with the rest of the team or like upper management. Yeah, Nick. You know what that started reminding me of? A little bit of Doug Peterson last year, where he didn't mesh with like upper management, and what he wanted was different from what they wanted. There was a little bit of a riff with Carson, and maybe he wanted to go with Jalen instead. Apparently, Flores wasn't feeling Tua. That's probably where the whole Deshaun Watson thing came from. So
listen, Deshaun Watson, main reason I think he was interested in Miami, they were saying, is because of Flores. He wanted to be coached with Flores. You can't blame the guy to be interested in Deshaun Watson, Who wouldn't be?
Well, and if you think about Tua's relationship with him, Tua's first year, I remember that was the quickest I'd seen a top pick quarterback get benched so quickly, like they did with Fitzpatrick. They started with Fitzpatrick, and then Tua came in, and then he would have a slow start. They'd take him out. And I never remember that happening with top quarterbacks before. And I don't know that he handled that well. And then the Deshaun rumors, which when they're talking about one of the top 5 people at your position, like you really shouldn't be upset. He didn't say anything wrong to the media, you can't really be that butthurt about it. But I mean, listen, I'll tell you, as somebody who cut ties with our coach, The thing I didn't want to see right as we're starting this podcast is breaking news from Broads Media, which I don't know if you guys know Hunter Brody. He's Sports Talk with Broads, big fan of his podcast. He put out a screenshot. It says, breaking. Broncos request permission to interview Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon for vacant head coach position.
I told you.
I will stop being a Bronco.
I don't know about that.
On the spot, I will stop being a Bronco fan if they hire Jonathan Gannon. I cannot stomach that.
That's a tough one. I feel like there's some strong candidates out there. That one I don't know. I don't know about that one. Even interviewing the guy, but I mean, yeah, I don't. Who as a Broncos fan, who you ideally looking for as a coach?
I'd love Flores. I'm with Flores. I like his mentality. There's a lot of young players in Denver.
Flores is a very good coach.
I like Flores. I'd like Peterson. Honestly, I'd be cool. I mean,
of course,
I'd happily take Peterson. After that, I'm kind of just jumbled. I mean, honestly, I'd take Eric Bieniemy. I'd love Eric Bieniemy. They can make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, another note on Flores, because I'm still shocked by it. I honestly, if I'm a team that fired my head coach, I would definitely want to interview him right now. I get it. Maybe he didn't get along with Tua, and you brought it up. Like last year, what they did with Tua with Fitzpatrick mentioned was idiotic. Was so dumb. Like just not how you handle the quarterback. But then Tua showed a lot of growth this year. Like they improved mightily. Like I just don't understand. Like, yeah, the first year was a disaster, but the second year you saw significant growth with them. And what's even worse is the rumors now it's Jim Harbaugh that they're talking about. Like Jim Harbaugh got fired from the Niners because he couldn't get along with the general manager and the upper management. Isn't that the reason you fired Flores? Him and Trent Baalke, Jim Harbaugh and Trent Baalke hated each other. Yeah. And Jed York, the owner, didn't like Harbaugh. And that's why they moved on from him after he was successful. Why would you bring in another guy that, if this is the same reason you find Flores for, why would you bring that guy in? I don't get it.
And Flores inherited a 4-win team to go back.
They were tanking for Tua. They were terrible.
Well, and they went back-to-back seasons over 500. Yeah. And then they got fired.
Doesn't make sense. It does. Like he put up 5 wins for a team that was clearly tanking for Tua to be terrible, which was impressive then. And then you have back-to-back winning seasons. I don't know. I don't know. The 1-7 start and then reel off 8+ wins. That is coaching. That is getting your team when they're dead and down, not listen to the media and get them up and going. Like that isn't GMs making roster signings. You know, the players play better, but I don't know what a better example of great coaching than that right there. And the improvement on Tua just doesn't make sense. He like if he was taking a shit on the GM's like car and, try to bang to his girlfriend or something, then maybe, but like it must have been really bad. I can't get behind that firing. The Dolphins are a bad franchise, but I don't know. I don't know about that.
I would say he's a lot of times when coaches get fired, they go right into like a coordinator role. I think he's going to go right into another head coaching job.
Without a doubt, he's 2 back-to-back seasons, winning seasons. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of Nagy and Zimmer were with their teams for quite a while, and the Fangio, I feel like they kind of, really stretched that out. I feel like because they missed the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl, right?
Yep, since 2015.
Yeah.
So first team to miss the Super Bowl 6 years after winning. First team to miss the playoffs for the 6 seasons after winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think my problem with Fangio is I think he's a good coach. The defensively, obviously, he's a very good coach. But you can never get a quarterback. Like Denver could never find a quarterback, and like Fangio made it very clear that the quarterbacks weren't very good. I think on his press conference after the game, which he probably knew he was getting fired, he even said like our quarterbacks aren't nearly as good as the ones in the division. Like I think he's been very vocal about that throughout the season, just from an outsider looking in. I don't know. He's hired some bad offensive coordinators too. Like I get it, you're a defensive guy, but make it the right hire when it comes to offensively. I guess you could say that about Flores too. But
I hate to be that ageist guy, but like he also was the oldest head coach ever to be a first-time head coach, and the NFL today is just not the NFL it was 30 years ago. And the offense was never fresh. It was never. No. You had so many weapons on that offense. And it was just, I know Judy was in and out of the lineup with some injuries. Cortland Sutton, though, was consistent all year. KJ Hamler went down early. but you had Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, who were healthy pretty much all season. And they both had great rushing attacks this year, but they just didn't, they both went over 800 yards and they look great there, but it just was never fresh. It never felt like 2021 football. It felt like I was watching 2010 and it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work.
I mean, if you factor just looking outside, like you gave extensions to Sutton and Patrick during the season. Obviously, that's a sign they had a very good year. Melvin Gordon, I think, has exceeded all expectations from what you could have expected from him. Javonte Williams looked good. It just at times just didn't look like this system made sense. It wasn't necessarily the players were playing bad. The system just didn't make sense. It didn't look like it was ever, playing to your strengths. Your offensive line was a little shaky, but you weren't doing anything to help the offensive line.
Well, so before we get back into it real quick, who you guys got for the college football national championship tonight?
Oh, I picked Georgia before the playoffs started. I'm sticking with them now.
The only time I ever pick against Bama is when Clemson plays. So I'm going to stick with Bama.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm feeling the Georgia wave as well.
I just say, man, they were the best team all year. They lost to Bama, but I think, Nick, you said it even earlier on this podcast. It's tough to beat a team twice. And if you don't think that Georgia team has been thinking about Alabama since that loss, you're nuts. I think they come out and make a statement. But listen, it's Bama. You can't count them out.
I did watch highlights of their middle linebacker Dean the other day, and he looks like he gets shot out of a cannon.
Yep.
Like
defense.
I get so like worked up every time I see a mock draft because I always see one of the three Eagles picks being Dean or Lloyd, the Utah linebacker, and it's just so uncharacteristic Philadelphia. But can you just imagine how nice it would be to have a linebacker you knew for the next 8 to 10 years was just going to lock down that and the thing about Lloyd and Dean, they both PFF grade over 82 as pass rushers and coverage linebackers. When do you get that combination? It's just Michael
goodness. Parsons. Parsons is that combination.
Right.
I gotta say, I don't know. We can wait till we get to the awards, but one other thing I did come across on the preview is you had Parsons as the defensive rookie of the year and pretty much predicted his dominance. So I was like, that's a good call. Dakota foolishly picked Patrick Surtain.
Yeah, I think I had Parsons as like a backup, but
I knew Parsons.
Fuck out of here.
I had Parsons pegged as like, if you weren't going to get Devontae, that's who I wanted. I was like, Parsons is just such a beast. And watching him this year, man, oh my goodness.
I love Devontae Smith, and he's who I wanted in the draft. But could you imagine drafting Parsons and then maybe looking at like Jamison Williams or Drake, the dude from USC this year? It would have been not a bad little way the cookie crumbled there. So, but all right. So how do we want to roll into next? I think we got over the coaches firing. Do we want to do playoff predictions? What do we got?
You want to do your studs and duds? Did you have those this week?
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, I did. Well, not this week, but I did the season's one.
Oh, full season studs and duds.
Season studs and duds. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't. You want this week? I didn't even bother. Obviously, Wentz would have been number one, but for the duds. But no, I got my season studs and duds.
All right. Let's hear them, and then we'll run into the playoff predictions.
Alrighty, sounds good. Alrighty. So moving on to studs and duds. How are we feeling? The Eagles lost, which usually determines everything, but we are in the playoffs. So I think ultimately the mood is still good. Start with the studs.
Sure.
So this is for the entire season, obviously not just the week since we wrapped up the season. So since it is for the whole season, I'm a hell of a guy and went even a little bit further and have an honorable mention. So for this, and this one really hurt me because I really wanted to put him in there, especially after this last game and the fact that they're going to the playoffs. But I gotta say, my honorable mention for the studs list for the year is Rich Bisaccia, the interim coach for the Raiders. Like, if you wrap your mind around what he did, he got this team to the playoffs after, just pick what you want. The amount of nonsense that this team's gone through, even just recently. Their stud rookie cornerback just got arrested for your DUI last week. The circumstances where he took over for John Gruden and everything he was going through, obviously the Ruggs, the Damon Arnett, just one thing after another. I really got to say I think it's one of the most impressive coaching performance I've ever seen. I don't know if they're going to consider him for coach of the year because he was, came in middle way through the season, but how many teams do you see fire a coach midway through the season and make it to the playoffs? Really, really impressive performance for Rich Bisaccia.
It's not the same sport or the same circumstances, but Nate McMillan did the same thing with the Atlanta Hawks last year. He came in February and they were terrible. And then he brought them to the Eastern Conference Finals. And that was amazing to watch.
You know what? There was one other, again, different sports, but like Berube, I remember old Flyers coach did it with the Blues a couple of years ago when they won the Stanley Cup. But I mean, really, you got to give your hats off for this guy. This is the fact that they never gave up after everything they went through. It was just every other week was nuts. I mean, this wasn't like the Bills or the Chiefs or the Packers dealing with this. This was like a middle of the tier team, and he just kept them going. So really impressive. But he was honorable mention. I really want to put him in there, but we had some terrific performances this year. So we'll get to them. So third stud, this guy was, I mean, I got to say, he's probably the breakout player of the year from when you talk about a guy that was going to be ascended into elite status. I think, Nick, you mentioned it already. You talked about the stat differential between the rushing leaders and, you know, the next guy up. So, I mean, he was probably the MVP for majority of the season in a league that, you know, looks past the running game, but went for 1,811 yards. I don't care if you play 17 games or 16 games. That is fucking impressive, especially considering Nick Chubb was the next guy up with 1,259. He had about, I think it was like 20 total touchdowns or 18 touchdowns. Truly dominant performance all throughout and kind of carried that team throughout the season. So Jonathan Taylor is my third stud of the year this year.
Out of 3. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was tough. I feel confident. I mean, I probably had these 3 studs down like 3 weeks ago. It didn't really move too much for me, but the guy, you know, the other 2 were just incredible. So moving on, this one, second stud, we got 2 record breakers in the first stud 1 and stud 2 on the season. This guy tied the record, but it's a 17-game season, but this guy did it in 15 games. And, you know, he missed 2 full games and he was, you know, iffy. I think he missed 3/4 of one of the other games. Tied one of the most impressive records in the NFL, putting up 22.5 sacks. He had 5 forced fumbles, which was top 5. And if you look at this team, the Steelers that are in the playoffs, like if you look at the team, Ben is so washed up. The offense is very lackluster. Their run defense is embarrassing. The defense lives and breathes. The team lives and breathes through TJ Watt. And their sack numbers are incredible because he tied Strahan's record and everything. But I don't think they're in the playoffs without TJ Watt. And I don't think that's an overstatement either. I think him as a defense player is the most important player on that team, and it's not even close. So he's my second stud on the year. You know, record-breaking performance, you got to go with what you see. And considering he tied Strahan in one less game than Strahan is just remarkable. Moving on, we got another record breaker here at our number one stud this year. And I think when you talk about like just consistently every week who dominated, who's been the best player pretty much week in and week out. When I made my stud list, this was a guy that could have been pretty much on it every single week. He did something that I didn't think would ever happen. It's incredible to think, but he won the Triple Crown of receiving, setting a record for 1,947 yards, 16 touchdowns, and then a $145 in receptions. He nearly had the receptions record. He's averaged a touchdown a game and almost had 2,000 receiving yards. And listen, like I said, he's been the model of consistency. He's dominated since week 1, and still no one could stop him. You knew he was going to be incredible. You knew they were going to throw the ball to him. And up until the end of the season, he just dominated every single week. And if you factor in, you know, they brought in Odell. Robert Woods was there before he got hurt. They drafted Van Jefferson. They had a lot of other options there. It didn't matter. They just fed him the ball, and he continued to produce. So I think the number one stud this year, and, you know, the best player I'm going to pick, he's got my MVP vote when we go to the awards later. He was just truly outstanding and dominant all year with Cooper Kupp.
I guess white man can jump.
I mean, dude, white man can jump, run, catch touchdowns, do everything. He was unstoppable. I mean, Calvin Johnson was incredible, and that record season he had was great. Yeah. But this was, I gotta say, probably the best wide receiver season I've seen in a very long time. And you see the struggles that Stafford is having recently. He is the heartbeat of that offense, and it's not even close.
Yeah, well, he's like a security blanket for him essentially. I'm blown away by how good he's been this year. I did not. I don't know. I won't say I was a hater, but I thought he was overrated the past few seasons. People have been like gassing him up. I was like, yeah,
Sounds like a hater.
he's just some like, he's just having a nice season here and there. But hats off. He had a hell of a year. I'm
the
super
consistency.
Impressed. Yeah.
And impressively, he did it even after Robert Woods went down. I thought after Robert Woods went down and he got more coverage rolled his way, that I thought that production was really going to drop off, and he just continued. It was like, it reminded me a lot of like Devontae Adams' season last year. You knew it was going to him, and it didn't matter. It just didn't matter. He was getting over 100 yards each game. He was getting 6 to 8 catches, and he was scoring once or twice. It was just like inevitable. You knew it was going to happen, and it was miraculous. And he's the first Triple Crown winner since Steve Smith in 2005. And I can remember.
Really? Oh, yeah. You know what? I thought he was the first one. I couldn't think of one off the top of my head. Steve Smith.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the only modern era ones are Jerry Rice did it in 90, Sterling Sharp did it in 92, and Steve Smith did it in 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good company. To be fair, you know what? He does remind me a lot of Steve Smith. He's like that smaller stature, great route runner. He's great in the slot, but can also bump outside.
Very strong.
I like that. I like that comparison.
Very, 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 very strong. Did you see his interview after the game where the reporter asked him how to play, and he went into absolute film mode? Like he broke down every coverage, and I'm like, man, this guy is locked in.
You can tell he's McVay there.
He's
McVay's
very much
a smart coach, and I think it rubs off on him. Sorry, Dakota. I'll let you go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's very much that kind of guy, the kind of player that just like really loves the game and wants to like understand the game. And is willing to put in the time. I feel like we have so many players that make it to the league and they're playing because they happen to be good at the sport and they like it. But this guy really you can tell he's got a passion for it. He'll probably be one of those players turned coaches when way down the road when he retires. But I mean, he's young.
He can teach wide receivers on any team. I'm a fan of.
Yeah, he's not my MVP, but he definitely deserves, that kind of credit. So
he's got my MVP. I think he's been the best player all year. Right. Obviously it's a quarterback league, but from week 1 to week 16, just pure dominance every single week, and it never stopped.
Right. I think I don't want to, I'm going to throw my own little honorable mention guy in there, but I think he gets so over. I think that he is sort of like the LeBron, and the expectations are always so high that we just kind of like brush over the things that he did. But can we just take a second to acknowledge before this weekend, because I don't want to acknowledge it on Sunday, but I'll acknowledge it today, that Brady just led the NFL in completions, yards, touchdowns, and attempts through 5,300 yards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like he threw the most completions in his career this year.
Ever. He threw the most completions ever.
Oh, yeah, ever in the league. Yeah.
Ever. Yeah, and
it's unreal.
He's 44, 43.
And again, think about the people who went down. Mike Evans has been hobbled. Godwin tore his ACL. Yep. Antonio Brown missed games for Vax card, then left the team and had injuries. He's throwing to, a 38-year-old Gronk. He's doing this like he's picking up that touchdown he threw against the Jets. I don't even know who threw the ball to. It was one of the best throws I've seen all year with 13 seconds left to go in a game, and he uncorked an absolute missile.
Yeah.
Rashad Perryman. I didn't know he was still in the NFL. I thought he was working at Best Buy. All of a sudden,
UCF great right there. UCF great.
All of a sudden, he's catching touchdowns from him.
Him and Danny Dimes are on the Best Buy corner picking up.
Oh my goodness! It felt like it was like when we were playing Jaquette last year in corner, and I was like trying to watch my eyes bleed watching the Eagles play defense.
Yeah,
no, I mean you are right. He continues to do it, which is just amazing. He had a great season again. I mean, listen, he's definitely in the MVP conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Him and some other guys for sure. I mean, has there ever been a year where Brady, maybe his last year in New England, it's probably the only year I can think of that he just wasn't really in the running, but besides that, it's every year.
It's a great year, but hey, those are my studs on the 2021 season. Obviously, when you have good, you got to have the bad.
Sure.
So we'll roll right into the duds list. And I got to say, I was texting you about this. The studs was easy. I pretty much had those 3 picked out in my head like 3 weeks ago. They've just been dominant all year. And, Watt and Cup were coming in on some impressive records.
Mm-hmm.
The duds list was pretty easy up top. It was the last dud that was tricky. So the honorable mention was one that I was splitting hairs with the other guy. So honorable mention, I have a quarterback, and my third dud, I have a quarterback. My honorable mention, though, being Russell Wilson, who definitely stepped back, and there's a team definitely stepped back. And, he had the broken thumb, but it really wasn't a strong year for him. What split these hairs, though, with me and the next guy is Russell Wilson. I think next year will be elite. I don't think Russell Wilson has fallen off a cliff. He might be on a different team, but I'm very confident he's going to go back to being an elite quarterback. My third dud, and this was the tough one, I was thinking, who came in the season and then ended the season just miles lower in expectations, performance, and like just outlook. And there was one quarterback that came to mind, and I was thinking about you, Dakota, on this one, because this is the team, and I always bust on you because you love the team so much, but you hate the quarterback. And again, I don't think anyone can say that anyone had a more expectations, outlook, and hope than Baker Mayfield coming into the season with a team that people were expected to go deep in the playoffs. And now the Browns are in a situation where Baker Mayfield might not be the quarterback they want in the future. His stats, he went for 3,000 yards. He had 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, nothing impressive. He dealt with injuries all year, which I get, but he didn't look good at all this year. You factor in the Odell Beckham situation, which, I mean, listen, I'm not an Odell guy, but I'm definitely not blaming Odell for what happened in Cleveland. I don't know if getting your dad to post a 10-minute hate video on your quarterback's the way of handling it, but Odell leaving was just kind of magnifying glass in the limits of Baker Mayfield. He really can't, a strong passing game is not what you're going to get with Baker. This is a run first offense that, had banged up running backs. Hunt missed most of the year. Chubb was in and out. The offense line got hurt. And I think that's where the Browns struggle was. You look at Baker, and considering where they're at now, obviously they've been, rumors that they're interested in Deshaun Watson. I don't think there's a chance that they even talk to him about an extension in the offseason. I really think that Baker's in a make it or break it kind of year going into the next season. You could see this guy walk from Cleveland when he was going into the season going to be the guy that was going to lead the Browns to a deep playoff run with this awesome roster. He was the guy. He was finally the quarterback that got it right, but I don't think he did anything this season to make anyone excited going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a Baker fan, but I don't think he was. I mean, I don't think he was healthy a single game. Maybe the start of the year, but they had a lot of injuries they were dealing with. I mean, even with the Seahawks thing, like their defense was horrible. Russ was coming back from a hand injury, and I don't know. I would have maybe went with like a Sam Darnold. He was pretty bad.
But hold on. I get that. Like I could have thrown Darnold out there, Mike White, Tyrod Taylor, Mike Glennon, Daniel Jones, whoever you want. But like, what are the expectations we have for them? What did we expect from
All right, that's fair. I mean, I really expected Sam Darnold to start and be decent for the Panthers, but he was.
But Sam Darnold's been terrible his entire career. He just
you thought that maybe he leaves the Jets and he changes, picks it up, reunites with Robbie Anderson, but
yeah, you thought these things might happen, but he just continued to be what we know he is. Baker, when going into the season, people thought the Browns were going on a deep run. You and Nick both had the Browns in the AFC Championship game at 12-5.
They have
everyone expected them. The Cleveland thought that Baker was the quarterback finally after they went through 30 of them, and there's no way to wrap your mind to say it other than Baker is in question going forward. I think Stefanski was taking interviews. Is Baker your quarterback in 2022? Of course he said yes. He's not going to say that, at the end of the year now, but he's up for an extension. Josh Allen, the same draft class, signed one already. I would imagine Lamar Jackson's going to sign an extension this offseason. If I'm the Browns, I don't even consider extending Baker. I need to see it now because he was your weak spot. This was a run first offense all throughout the first couple of years of his career, and that was where they succeeded. And the run offense was weak this year with injuries, and Baker could not do anything. And I think Odell just magnified through a video his dad posted of how limited he is in the passing game. So I think if the expectations coming into the season and where they are now, I think Baker has to be your dud. No one had a worse year expectation wise and his outlook than Baker in my mind.
I mean, if that's your premise for it, then I can see where you're coming from. But
moving on, we have a fun one here because listen, there's certain teams when they find their way on the dud list, they make me smile, and this is one of them. So I want to get the crowd involved here. So
the crowd,
tell me, what does this group of players all have in common? Connor McDermott, from the New York Jets, Lane Johnson from the Philadelphia Eagles, Terrence Steele from the Dallas Cowboys, Danny Pinter from the Colts, and Robert Hunt from the Miami Dolphins.
They all caught one touchdown.
They're all offensive linemen that caught more touchdowns than my second dud.
Oh.
Well, what is this list? What does this list have in common? Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, who was on my stud list, Mike Evans, all have in common.
Are you get paid the same?
They're all getting,
or are they underpaid?
They're all getting paid less this season than my second dud was.
Oof.
You want to talk about bang for your buck? Oof. Talk about a waste of money. I mean, he had the sixth highest.
Then
it's the opposite. I don't know. What's the opposite of bang? Buckle? The buckle for your buck?
The buckle for your buck. Okay.
He had the sixth highest wide receiver salary this year.
Damn, it was that bad.
I think 527 yards, 0 touchdowns. Man, I just listed you a whole bunch of offensive line and had more touchdowns than him. And I get it. That whole team is a shit show and the whole offense is a shit show. But you brought in a number one wide receiver, paid him to be a number one wide receiver, and he didn't even look like a special teamer. Oh. So Kenny Golladay, who's got to be one of the worst free agent signings we've seen in quite some time, is my second dud this year. And mostly because, man, this is year one of this 4-year deal he signed. I don't think there's anything. I mean, at this point, I think New York is just looking at when they can pay out the guarantee dollars and just move on.
I got to tell you, I'm a little intrigued who's number one after seeing heard Golladay too, because that's a real big case for number one.
Yeah, listen, number one is intriguing, but I promise you, it's obvious because my number one dud.
Real quick though, what's crazy is that it was either last year or the year before. One of us had Golladay in our top 10 wide receivers. I think it was 2 years ago.
Okay, relax. Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
No, I'm just saying, like that's a huge. The same with Mike Thomas, like. It just shows how fluent.
Mike Thomas isn't even going to suit up again. Nobody wants him. They're sick of his prima donna shit.
Yeah, he's.
Couldn't agree more. That's
a shame.
That's what I was telling Joe. It's like, could you imagine how quick the NFL comes? Mike Thomas sets a record, misses the next 2 years, and I thought Cooper Kupp was going to break it. Could you imagine the next time you lace up a pair of cleats from your record-setting game is when your record's already been broken?
Yeah, that'd be wild.
But yeah, he survives another one.
All right,
so the next one. And this one, it is intriguing. I know the Golladay was a pretty strong one, but this one's obvious. This guy had more TMZ headlines than I think he had wins. His name was, every time his name was mentioned, was in a bad way, whether it was getting dry humped in a bar or whether it was teaching his kicker how to kick while kicking him, or while he's telling his entire staff of assistant coaches that he hired that they're all losers. The guy who we all knew was going to be a terrible hire, but somehow blew us all of our expectations out of the water. Couldn't even finish the season. Urban Meyer had the worst coaching tenure I can ever remember. He is our number one dud, and I don't even think it's close. And Kenny Golladay put up a strong case, but man, Urban was preached and choired as he's going to save it. We all knew it was a bad idea, but he shocked us all. So Urban Meyer on the 2021 season, you're my number one dud.
Yeah, that I honestly completely forgot about him.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, the whole kicking his kicker thing just still cracks me up.
And that came out after he was fired. That just tells you how much other shit he did before he.
I think it was like the day before.
I don't remember. That was Josh Lambo had the ear to the door, knew it was coming. He's like, all right, I feel safe putting this out there now.
I can't even imagine just like what the players went through to deal with him. Like you see your head coach on the news and on the internet at a bar grinding with some college girl. Like what goes through your head? Like, does this guy really care about my team? Does he want us to succeed, or is he
you wouldn't know yet because you'd be on the plane home from your away game and you haven't landed yet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
I have a pop quiz for you, a little audience game.
Oh, the audience. Okay. I like this.
So it's, it doesn't qualify as those top three duds, but it does put a little smile in my heart. Do you happen to know there's a quarterback who tied Jalen Hurts for passing yards per game after I heard all year how bad of a passer he was? Do you know what quarterback that is?
Passing yards per game.
I'm assuming the way it was framed that's someone good. I'm gonna say. I mean, we definitely haven't been dominating passing. I'm gonna say Mahomes. Mahomes has been erratic.
It's not Mahomes.
No,
is it active starter this year?
Is an active starter this year. Matter of fact, this starter played every game, which is a pretty big shock.
Big shock.
That's a big hint.
Played every game.
Played every game.
Let me just run through all the teams real quick in my head.
Yeah, I don't know. I had my guess. I'll let you field this one.
It's not Tom Brady, obviously.
Nope. Tom Brady led the league, and
I know. Yeah. Rodgers?
Follow on there, Dakota.
No.
Because Rodgers, I feel like didn't have a huge stat year.
No, low. He had his typical year, a lot of touchdowns, low interceptions.
Must be nice.
So one of the big guys. Who else is still?
Who was it?
It's not one of the big guys. It's somebody you'll be compared to forever.
Was it Dak Prescott?
No. Oh my God! Why would this make me happy that he's a Duck? Wentz.
There you go.
Same 209.6 per game, but Hurts rushed for 784 yards and 10 touchdowns, and Wentz rushed for 215 and 1 touchdown. So Hurts had more total yards and touchdowns. I think they had about the same amount of touchdowns.
He had 16 passing touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, and then he had 10. So he had 26 to Wentz's 28 touchdowns total, but beat him in total yards. And they had the exact same to the 10th yards per game passing. So when somebody tries to tell you that, oh, he can't pass the ball, well, he passed the ball just as efficiently as Carson Wentz did this year.
He's in the playoffs too. And listen, I more than anyone, I'll admit this. I give Howie so much crap, but this season has really, really changed my mind on Howie, where things blossomed. I mean, look, we have 3 first-round picks from all you, and the 1 first-round pick you got out of moving backwards to get Devontae Smith, who we all wanted anyway. The Colts now sitting at home without being in the playoffs makes you feel very good. The fact that you got a first and a third out of him. The couple of the contract extensions he gave, like Josh Sweat, I thought had a strong year. TJ Edwards, we finally have linebackers now. He locked them up. Maddox, he locked up. I'll give Howie credit. Mailata, yeah, I'll give Howie credit. This was a strong year for him. This was a strong year between the draft picks that he traded for, and the way he did it. Got out of the contracts where we have some cap space, and he extended the guys that are solid players. And give him a lot of credit.
He traded a 6th-round pick for Gardner Minshew.
Oh, you're right.
Which is now being viewed as a guy who they could get a 2nd or a 3rd-round pick for in return this year.
I no gripe with Howie. This was definitely a strong year for him. And even little things a guy that I thought was terrible, like Herbig, who played a lot at the end of the season. He had his woes, but listen, this guy. Solid for if he's our reserve offensive guard going forward. I'm definitely down with that. Landon Dickerson, I like the pick, but a lot of people shitted on Howie for that. He's looked incredible. He's pretty much started every game this season and dominated. Hats off. Milton Williams was another guy who's starting to walk into his own. A guy who had the scouts yelling at Howie Roseman on national TV has actually looked pretty good. Hats off to Howie. Howie had a strong year. Strong in-season year.
You got Gainwell in the 5th round.
Yeah.
He's
obviously
a 5th-round pick.
He ran for 80 yards on the Cowboys.
Yeah, obviously Jalen Hurts has made him look, very good because he looks like a solid starting quarterback. And I think he's quieted, who's our starting quarterback next year at least. Good for Howie. I was ripping Howie a new one pretty much all off season, and he really came out and was strong this year. So hats off to Howie. But I think we can.
I'm gonna flip the script a little bit. Let's just go right into our award winners since we're already on the topic of the players and stuff. So,
okay.
We'll start with defensive and offensive rookies of the year. Nick, you want to go first? Who you got?
Defensive. I feel like this isn't even a question.
I'm just checking.
He's getting votes for defensive player of the year overall.
Yeah.
So Micah Parsons is absolutely. And Jamar Chase, I feel like it's not even like one of those things that there's much of a question. What they both did, especially both of them who didn't play last year.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 guys who opted out, didn't play football for a full year, just came in absolutely. The Bengals are no longer asking, why didn't we draft Penei Sewell? Trust me, they are very happy. They're going to have Joe Burrow throwing Jamar Chase the ball for a long time to come.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. That's, I think these are the 2 easiest ones. I agree fully with you. Jamar Chase looks like an elite number one wide receiver, and then Micah Parsons looks like a guy who could have 10 sacks and cover tight ends at the same time and have 100 tackles. So terrifies me because he's on the Cowboys, but the dominant performance by them both.
And it's crazy. Remember how bad the Cowboys defense was? And then they used every single pick on a defensive player in the draft last year. I'd never seen that done before. Every single pick.
The tryout.
They pick, you can't miss if you pick, some people got to make it. If you can miss on a couple, but some you're going to hit on. And their defense this year so improved. So improved.
Hey, another guy that's going to be talked about in head coaches when we're talking about fires, Dan Quinn, man, hats off to him. I never thought he was a bad coach. I just think you can't recover from that Super Bowl. But that defensive turnaround, I know they brought in Parsons, Trayvon Diggs emerged, but you cannot give him enough credit. I don't know if we're going to do assistant coaches of the year. I don't know if that's an award, to be honest with you, but he's got my vote. Yeah, well, I would definitely vote for him. Second would be the Philadelphia Eagle fans who convinced Nick Sirianni to run the ball.
I'm putting Byron Leftwich up there, man. I love what he's done.
Fair enough. I like Leftwich too. He'd be good in Jacksonville.
I want him to get that Jags head coach job.
Yeah, come full circle.
Yeah.
I obviously, this is probably the most unanimous offensive defensive rookies of the year I've seen in a couple of years. And honestly, the whole Jamar Chase thing, like I have the thing like draft a lineman, don't get your quarterback killed. But man, I like Joe Mixon a lot, so I already was kind of like vibing with the Bengals. But I'm gonna hop on this Bengals bandwagon coming up in these next few years because they got a lot of swagger going on. Do you see Joe Burrow after they won the AFC North Championship, had a cigar in the locker room? They're all dancing. They're fun to watch. Joey They're Burrow exciting. With a cigar.
We all wanted it. We saw it in the college championship. We all wanted it again. But what do we moving? Do we go defensive or offensive player of the year on this one?
Let's start with defensive player of the year because I think that's also pretty unanimous.
We'll set it up there, my beautiful ginger beard friend.
Okay. TJ Watt, who I feel like I've been saying for the past 2-3 years is already, his brother JJ had a really, really incredible stretch in his career, but ever since his injuries, he just hasn't been the same player. And I think TJ is already he's on the rise to be better than JJ ever was. And that's saying a lot because JJ was a defensive player of the year himself. So, but yeah, when you tie the sack record in less games, what was it, 15 games? He was much like Micah Parsons was the reason that the Cowboys defense turned around. TJ Watt's the reason the Steelers are even, alive in the playoffs right now because he's just that important of a player. But yeah, he's my vote.
I agree with you fully. Listen, I already made the argument in the studs, most of the stuff that you repeated, Dakota, which I appreciate. You can put me on your works cited. I won't get too much into it. All the reasons I mentioned before, he's my defense player of the year too.
Yeah. Nick, any objections?
No.
Okay. No. And then Tim, you start off with offensive player of the year.
Well, I already kind of showed my hand and I previewed it. If I'm voting the guy for MVP, I'm putting him as offensive player of the year too. The Triple Crown, the record-setting yards, the just dominance week in, week out. I'm going Cooper Kupp. Just incredible what we saw from him this year. And even, honestly, more prestigious of an award than the Offensive Player of the Year is number one stud on my 2021 list. And that's the one. There's no trophy, but it's pride.
I just blacked out real quick. What are we're doing Offensive Player of the Year, correct?
Get yourself a producer who blacks out in the middle of the show. And
I was watching
You asked the question.
I know.
Yeah.
I was texting someone back, and then I was also looking at the TV because of the game, and I was like, "What were we talking about?"
Hey, did someone send you like a nude picture? Did you get a booty call address or something? They just dropped your jaw and took every
whatever picture Joe Judge has, Dakota just saw.
Yeah.
He just saw it. It dropped his jaw, knocked that train off the track. He couldn't even remember his own question.
It's part of Gruden's emails and that whole chain. So,
I saw a little drool coming out of your mouth, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, I will admit that, as someone who, I guess technically, Tim, we're kind of analysts, journalists at this point, much as we talk about football, analysts get it wrong. I was very wrong about Jonathan Taylor. And
okay.
Well, I mean, look,
that's gonna be I'm gonna record that and make that my ringtone.
I said he was a good player. I just wasn't ready to crown him as a top running back, and he must have watched the episode and was like, well, this guy doesn't know shit. And yeah, he was incredible. He was the reason the Colts were alive because, like you said, Carson's numbers weren't they weren't jumping off the board, but like his interceptions were relatively low for most of the season, and it's because he was basically a game manager and their offense was going through Taylor. And then Taylor kind of got shut down a little bit in that game against the Jags, and I think he only had like 15 or 16 carries, so they kind of got away from him after I think he had like 65, 70 yards. But yeah, I mean, all year, and when you're in the running with Derrick Henry for most of the season, and then you just blow away the rest of the competition, he beat Chubb by 500 some yards. It's something special, and I think he deserves some votes for MVP. I think if they'd made the playoffs, it would have been a little more appealing. But I'll give Jonathan Taylor my offensive player of the year vote.
I'm gonna be honest. It's a toss up for me for those two. I think I go Cooper Kupp just because of winning the Triple Crown, and I think the consistency he showed. Also, fun fact: the Colts were 0-7 when Jonathan Taylor rushed for under 100 yards. So
yeah,
that's your offense.
That was a big focal point of their offense. So definitely, it's like a 1A, 1B for me with those two for offensive player of the year. I have a different MVP, but Kupp, I think, just winning the Triple Crown, his consistency, his leadership, all of it. I'd probably go with Cooper Kupp.
Fair enough.
I guess we're going to roll in MVP, so I'll cut in mine so you guys can have time because, I've already stated mine. I know it's a quarterback award, but listen, Cooper Kupp was dominant and most valuable player in my mind, so I'm sticking with it. He had by far the best season, but I know it's a quarterback award. I know he's probably not going to win, but in my heart, he wins. So I'll let you guys go because I'm actually curious what you guys say.
So my MVP is pretty lame, but I mean, you have a guy who goes into the off season, team turmoil, doesn't like his, the front office, wants better players here and there, which actually on paper, like his team is pretty stacked, honestly. He has elite talent at every position. It's just not like the depth isn't there. But I mean, when you have arguably the best receiver in the league, one of the best running backs, one of the best cornerbacks, one of the best edge rushers, some of the best linemen, it helps. But I think all year, Aaron Rodgers has just been money. He had that first bad game. As a team, they were terrible against, I think it was the Saints, and just turned it around right after that. He's had some ups and downs with his off the field stuff, which is somewhat comical with the whole yes, he's got his whatever he said about his vaccination.
He's immunized.
Yeah, he's immunized, which technically answers the question, but also doesn't, which was whatever. But yeah, I think
where he was taking advice from Dr. Joe Rogan. That was my personal favorite.
God, yeah. Off field, I'm not a fan of Rodgers really, but you can't deny his production on the field. And I mean, he's got to have one of the prettiest balls. Like the way he just throws is.
But I wasn't the only one laughing at that.
Hey, no homo. Like we're,
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
He's got pretty balls. What can I say? But yeah, Rodgers is my MVP.
We'll end it on the pretty balls note.
God. So this is tough for me. I went back and forth with the obvious, Brady Rodgers debate.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've said this, multiple times during other pods, but I think one of the hardest things to do is to play well after you win a championship or after you get paid. I think that's always one of the hardest things to do. I think players always have a drop off. It probably led to, a little bit of stagnancy for some time this year. They both have the same records. Green Bay and Tampa Bay were both 13-4. But I think just the injuries that the Bucs had to deal with this year. I mean, most people forget their secondary's been hurt pretty much all year. all year. Their corners or safeties have been out. Chris Godwin tears his ACL. Leonard Fournette, you lose on the end. Antonio Brown missed 7 games this year through injury or suspension. Mike Evans is at a hamstring strain all year. He threw to Brashad Perryman, Cyril Grayson, who was a track star who turned into a receiver. Tyler Johnson catching balls from him. Gronk,
NBA player?
Yes, yeah. Gronk somehow still, being a productive player out there. His stat, the only stat that obviously Rodgers has better is he threw less picks, but at the same time, Brady threw about 160 more passes.
Yeah.
So he's throwing a lot more. I just think overall what he's done, and hey, hate me or love me for it, but I think when you're a distraction to your team versus you're somebody who's actually saying people should be kind to Antonio Brown after Antonio Brown went and blasted Tom Brady on podcast after that, and just kind of, and they're playing the Eagles and he says, hey, they were one of the toughest people who played all year. What he's done, what he's shown up and done this year, played all 17 games at 44 years old, threw 5,300 yards, most touchdowns in the NFL. They asked him, he never dropped back less than 30 times in a game. This whole year, he threw over 30 passes every single game this year. He threw over 54 times. He was asked to carry the load and do way more than anybody in the NFL was asked to do. And at his age, that to me it's just incredible. I don't know that we're ever going to see a 44-year-old quarterback have this type of season again. It's not to say that what Rodgers did wasn't, impressive. It was impressive. But if I'm going to give someone the nod, I know it feels like hey, you could do this every year, but I just feel like what he put together, especially this year, because all I heard last year was, well, of course he had a great year. Look at his team. They're so stacked. They weren't stacked this year. He never had a healthy team all year. He was always being asked. He was always
a lot of adversity,
to do that. And I just think you threw that all together. The year after winning a Super Bowl, he had to really keep his head down, keep that hunger. The guy's won 7 rings. I mean, he's got to start getting fitted for toe rings, and still comes out this hungry. I considered
it.
Yeah. Before we get into the playoff predictions, I got to say, obviously, it's a quarterback award. I'm sticking with Cooper Kupp because he deserves it. I would take Brady. I think Brady's got my MVP vote this year. What he did was impressive. He was the glue to put them together. But I'm sticking with Kupp. I like to buck the trend. Buckle the trend. Whatever you want to do.
Whatever you say, man. But
all right.
Moving on. Yep, to the playoffs. So Super Bowl. Crazy to think that we all, I think, did predict the Eagles to make the wild card. So we were pretty correct on that.
Actually, you know what? I'll give you credit here, Dakota. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, you give me this Nostradamus incredible prediction. I think during the NBA season, you predict the Bucks to beat the Suns in 6 games in like the beginning of the season and beginning of the playoffs.
I don't remember.
You actually had the Buccaneers playing the Eagles in the first round of the playoffs. You had the Eagles as the 6th seed and the Buccaneers as the third seed on the preview.
There you go.
So every once in a while, you get one of these ridiculous predictions that Dakota hits like on the head. So hats off to you, my friend. That was a good call.
Who did I have winning that game?
Do I have to tell you? I know you picked the Eagles to beat the Buccaneers in the regular season, but you didn't do it in the playoffs.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean that was like the whole thing with what Nick was saying. It's hard to beat the opponent twice. So I thought they were just going to catch fire then. But yeah, same kind of thought process here. So we can start off with that game. That's on Sunday at 1:00. Bucks and Eagles. I agree with Tim though. I do like the matchup. But you can't bet against Brady. And I would not be surprised if he just got this like fire lit under him because he feels like he has to carry the team and he just balls out. I think it'll be close. I think the defense needs to make a difference in order for the Eagles to be in this game. And I don't think they will. I think they'll play good enough to be in the game, but not good enough to sustain it. And Brady will have some fourth quarter magic and win. I think Bucks will win by like a touchdown, but they'll beat the Eagles. So
I want to say in the front end that I won't be like jaw dropped if the Eagles find a way. I think if there was ever a time they're going to get the Bucks, it would be this week.
I agree.
But, for all the reasons I talked about earlier, but I think that the reason that they don't is going to be Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon all year is the tale of two.
Wait, I'm sorry. You mean the future Broncos
head coach?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go on.
And this is exactly why he can't become the Broncos head coach. He can stop NFC East quarterbacks other than, the two of the three. He only can stop Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
He's not stopping a single quarterback in the AFC West. He cannot stop a competent quarterback. Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Derek Carr all completed 80% of their passes on a Jonathan Gannon defense. He cannot become the Broncos quarterback. He plays way, way too conservative against strong defenses, and the Eagles cannot afford the slow starts they've been having week in and week out. If you're going to start this slow against the Giants and Washington and all these bum teams, and then you're going to go up against Tampa Bay, I can't see it. And honestly, the thing that makes me sleep at night the worst is knowing Jonathan Gannon is the one trying to drop a plan against Brady. That really is. It's not Jalen. It's not the running game. It's not Goddard. It's not Devontae Smith. It's not the fact that I want J. John Rager to be wearing suit and ties and never wearing shoulder pads again. It's
ties. Give him the Best Buy vest.
No, it's the fact that Jonathan Gannon just gets torched by the top tier quarterbacks. And, I know they always have good games and Brady has a ton, but I wouldn't be surprised if he throws for 500 yards this game. It's just, Gannon does not coach well against good quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, I said a lot of positives. And like I said, I still believe that the Buccaneers are the team I wanted to play in the first round of the playoffs. But realistically, I think the ceiling that we have for this game is what Washington led last year. Washington was the toughest game that the Buccaneers faced. Mm-hmm. Nick hit it on, right on the head. I've been preaching this for weeks now. The first half struggles is not something to just brush off. Good teams will crush you if you come out and play like that. And we've seen it week in and week out, and we forget about it because they come out and dominate the second half against bad teams. I still feel good about the matchup. I think that they match up well, but it is Brady. I do think he's going to end up pulling this one out. So I'm going to take the Bucs, but I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I think this is going to be more like the Washington game last year.
I agree. Yeah, I like Nick said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles pulled it off, but the whole defense, I think no matter what Jalen does, the defense has to win the game. So
yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen. But anyways, next game we have the Cowboys at the 49ers at the Cowboys, which I actually really like the momentum the 49ers have right now. I mean, the Jimmy G injury is a little questionable. Not that he's like, a god, but I kind of think the 49ers are going to give the Cowboys the business. I think they're going to run the ball.
Really?
I think they're going to run the ball. I think Deebo is going to have himself a hell of a game. I'm not going to take the 49ers here in an upset. And it's not because I don't like the Cowboys. I actually I really do think the 49ers are one of the hotter NFC teams coming into it. So
I actually agree. I think the Cowboys got the worst matchup they could have got. I think they're a team who runs extremely well. We just saw what the Eagles double and triple backups did to their run defense.
Hundley had like 60 yards. He was like the fifth string running back.
Yeah, I mean, you got practice squad running backs running for running wild on you, and I just think the Dallas playing their starters into the fourth quarter, and when the Eagles didn't play 13 starters and Kelsey played one snap, tells you all you need to know about how uncomfortable they are going into this playoffs.
Yeah,
they are so uncomfortable with where they are that they needed a confidence boost to have the peanut vendors getting burned on about Cedric Wilson thinking that he's freaking Justin Jefferson out here.
Yeah,
it's the wrong mentality, and the Niners had to beat the Rams to get into the playoff. That's a big time win.
Yeah,
that is a big time win.
It's actually funny because like I said, I went to our season preview episode, and I don't know, I was gassed up on the Niners. I had them at 13-4 going into the season, and I felt really good. They reminded me a lot of the Super Bowl team. I liked what I was seeing. I thought the defense had the depth back in there. Jimmy was coming back, but Dakota knows this. Every time we do the podcast, we argue over power rankings, and I've constantly argued, and it kills me inside for the Cowboys. I've consistently thought they were a better team than you've ever given them credit for. I think the Cowboys win this game. I do. The defense, I already gave Dan Quinn praise. I think the defense is going to give problems to Jimmy G. I don't know if Jimmy G's got it to be able to pull it out here. And this offense is, I think this offense has got too much talent to not be able to outscore Jimmy G. I think the Cowboys win this game. Nick, you brought up a great point by saying that the Niners did look good. They did beat the Rams. I'm going to roll right into the next game because this is my upset. You guys all went the Niners here. I'll take the Cowboys, but my upset's going to come. I think the Cardinals are going to beat the Rams. The Rams lost that game to the Niners, but man, Matthew Stafford looks horrendous these last couple games. And momentum is big, and momentum in the quarterback position is even bigger. Matthew Stafford has looked rough. They've won a couple of the games. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions. They beat the Vikings. You're not going to get away with that in the playoffs. And it kills me to say this because Dakota knows after the Cardinals lost the Lions, I said that was going to be the game that ends them, and that was going to be the killer. I think they come out in this game, a division rival. I think they catch the Rams maybe feeling a little too good about themselves, think they're a little high, won the division and everything. So I'll take the Cowboys over the Niners, but I'm going to take the Cardinals over the Rams. I think the Cardinals find the mojo that they had in the beginning of the season and knock off the Rams. And I think Stafford's struggles isn't going to go away. I think he's going to have another rough game. And, that's why I got in the NFC.
I hear you. And I've said, I think Stafford had the inverse of most people. He started off absolutely on fire. And then he's looked like a QB on a new team the last couple of weeks.
He has. It's bad, real bad. The last 3 games just looked horrendous.
He's thrown some of the worst interceptions I've ever seen these past couple of weeks.
Just like that Eagles first half slumps, Matthew Stafford's struggles and interceptions will come back to bite them. They can beat bad teams, but they will come back to bite you and in the playoffs.
Yeah, I see that. I think in the same token, I think that the Cardinals, to me, I feel like are honestly the team I have the least faith in the NFC playoffs. They're once D-Hop went down and the team has just not looked the same. The Cardinals I have the least amount of faith in overall. So I think the Rams won't be pretty. It won't be sexy, but I think they do enough to get the win.
Yeah, I'd like to root for Ertzy, but I agree with Nick. I think the Rams get it done. Tim, I'm surprised because you've been hating on the Cardinals the last 5 weeks.
So I know. But you know what? I can't get over the fact how bad Stafford has looked in the Rams. And I said the Niners had 13-4. I had the Cardinals 13-4 going into the season as well. So I think that, you know what? They surprise some people and they find that mojo they had in the season. Let's not forget they were the best team for, I would say, the first 10 games of the season or so. Yeah. But I mean, you're right. I did, have the funeral for them after the Lions game, but Stafford's performance has been rough, and I don't think they're going to be able to get by without if he keeps putting up those kind of performances.
All right. Well, so for Nick and I, that would put the Packers, who are on a bye because they're the number 1 seed, against the 49ers. So, Nick, who do you like in that matchup?
I'm taking the Packers there. Yeah, not really much to talk about. Just I'm taking the Packers.
I agree. Not much to talk about. I'll also take the Packers. And then the next one would be we would have the Rams and the Bucks. That's a good one. Who are you liking in that? Because I'm actually not sure. Now that I look at
I had that as my NFC Championship game before the season started, and I think I go Bucks there. I think Brady either loses the first round or he goes on a run. I think he gets knocked out wild card weekend or second weekend. I feel like he just blows right through, and then he's 1 game away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think it's set up to be a Packers Bucks NFC Championship game. So I agree with you with that. So we're pretty much identical through the NFC. Tim, for you would have the Packers versus the Cardinals, right? No. Yes.
No. So obviously after I gassed up the Cardinals and why they're going to be the Rams, I think they get crushed by the Packers. I think the Packers come off this bye, they get healthy. I would imagine Bakhtiari and Zadarius Smith and Jair Alexander will be back, and I think they absolutely crush them. The Packers, foreshadowing, I expect the Packers to go far.
Okay. And then you would have the Bucks and the Cowboys. Don't tell me you're going Cowboys again.
You know what? I hate it. But I've been saying for a while now I want the Bucks because I think they're a little banged up and everything. They lost in week 1, but I think the Cowboys can probably knock off the Bucks here too. They have the firepower to go, score for score Brady. I think the Cowboys win here. The Cowboys, it terrifies me and it sickens me, but they look like a good team. If you look at them outside the lens of being the Dallas Cowboys, they're a very good team. They've got 2 top-notch wide receivers, a strong run game, a good quarterback, and a defense that is well coached and is a playmaking turnover defense. I honestly think, maybe this is me forecasting or foreshadowing or hoping, I think this offense we haven't seen this offense nearly what it can be. Zeke has struggled. Lamb has been nothing lately. Amari Cooper has complained about his targets. I think they find it in the playoffs, and I think they do beat the Bucks.
Wow, bold.
Yeah, I hate to see it, but I mean, I do want to play the Bucks for a reason. I think they are banged up. I don't think it's the same team as last year.
All right. Well, Tim, that puts you with the Packers and Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. So are you still riding the wave?
Just like I did with the Cardinals, I'm going to gas the team up to then crush them. The Packers are going to beat the Cowboys.
Easy enough. Nick, you and I have Packers Bucks. I think Bucks fall short. This seems like an Aaron Rodgers year to get to the Super Bowl. So I'll take the Packers.
Well, as I've said year in and year out, I do not bet against Brady this time of year. He's been to 10 Super Bowls. You know how many Aaron Rodgers has been to?
One, right?
One.
Yeah.
Brady's been to 10 with way worse teams than what he's got now.
Yeah.
And Rodgers has been to 1. And there's something that does not feel about good karma, the way he has absolutely obliterated and held his franchise hostage for the past year. And I just don't see this ending well. I find the karma bug is just going to come back around. So I think Brady either gets knocked off in the first weekend. Either the Eagles find a way right now this weekend and knock him off, or he takes a ride to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I got to say, listening to the preview, obviously I was sticking to my gut. My Super Bowl prediction was the Chiefs and Packers, so I was going Packers anyway. But Nick, you actually had the Buccaneers as well coming in the NFC, so you stuck to your gut on the preview. Dakota, you're a sellout. You had the Buccaneers as well. So, topsy-turvy. But hey, it feels good. We'll see what happens. Moving on to the AFC, though. The little Wild West kind of conference. Yeah. Who knows what the hell's going to come here?
I think the AFC is a lot not as close as the NFC is. So I'm going to go let's start with Chiefs Steelers. I would not be surprised if this game is closer than people think. I think the Chiefs stumble a little bit in the first half, and then they just explode in the second half. But yeah, Chiefs are going to win this one.
Did you watch that last game, the Steelers game? It's going to be the Chiefs.
I know, but I think the Chiefs are going to be shooting them.
The Steelers are not a good football team. I'm sorry. No, they are not a good football team. That run defense, they knew every single time the Latavius Murray was running the ball because Huntley cannot pass.
Oh, yeah.
And he was gashing them.
Yeah.
Gashing them.
I'm not saying the Steelers are going to play well. I just think the Chiefs are going to make mistakes in the first half, and then they'll right the ship. But
I mean, you might be right there. They won a Super Bowl while losing in the first half of all their playoff games. But I mean, I already said this with the TJ Watt argument. Their offense is horrendous, and their run defense is embarrassing. Somehow they made it to the playoffs because their TJ Watt is awesome. The Chiefs are going to beat the Steelers. Ben can walk off pride knowing that he made it to the playoffs. But the
he's about 3 steps from the retirement home. So
yeah. I think he's surprised that he's even made it this far.
Yeah, he looks awful.
Next game is the Bills and the Patriots. I think this will be the best AFC game of the weekend. I don't know. I think the Bills are finally kind of getting their rhythm going right at the right time. So I think they'll find a way to beat Belichick. So I got the Bills.
As a New Englander, you guys probably don't know this, but N'Keal Harry is like the Jalen Reagor and Jay Jaw of the Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
Pats fans are beyond sick of N'Keal Harry, and I think just with their limited ability of Mac Jones, I feel like Josh Allen finds a way to get this one done.
We know Deebo Samuel was taking like 3 picks after Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to hear all the Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf talk, but at least, we didn't do that. But, I mean, Listen, Josh Allen is the perfect like weather quarterback. If it's the weather's terrible, he can't throw. He's just going to run the ball. He's got a cannon. He can throw it if the weather's well. Again, it's a rookie quarterback against Josh Allen. Can't count on Belichick, but I said this a lot in our last matchup, the Patriots versus the Bills, is I trust the Bills as a better team to win a game when it absolutely matters. You're in the playoff. All these games matter. I think the Bills pull this one out.
All right. And then our last game is Bengals Raiders. Hats off to the Raiders. And Tim, I said it last week on the episode when I predicted the Raiders to beat the Chargers that, for all the drama and the craziness that they've dealt with this year, and we actually glossed over it. We didn't even mention our coaches of the year, but I would have given it to Rich Bisaccia. I think he's done a hell of a job. I don't think there's been an interim head coach to lead a team to the playoffs, or it's been a while since then, I think. But yeah, he's been phenomenal. And that being said, I think the fairy tale story ends, and I like the Bengals. I think they rest a lot of their players. I think they'll come out fresh and move on. So,
I agree with you as well. Obviously, I guessed up Rick Bisaccia when I did my studs list. He was my upper benchman. What they did is incredible. I can't take any credit away from. But I also feel like the hangover effect might kick in. I mean, it was an incredible game they had on Sunday night. This whole season, I don't think anyone saw them going this far. The Bengals seem to be in a good spot right now. They seem hotter than ever at the end of the season. I think they pull this one out. I'm going Bengals.
Yeah.
I like the Bengals. I mean, I think that offense is it's gelling at the right time. They got a great trio of wide receivers. Burrow looks comfortable. He looks confident. Mixon, is looking great. I'm just all around. I love the offense. Really impressed with what Zach Taylor's assembled there.
Yeah. What a turnaround he's had. All right, so we're all, like I said, AFC's a lot more simplified. So we all have the same picks. So that would leave us with, shocker, honestly, the number one seed in the AFC is the Titans. I never would have thought that with Derrick Henry going down. They proved that they're much more than Derrick Henry. So hats off to them. They will be facing.
Shout out to myself. I did predict them to go 13-4 in the preseason preview. I was a game off, but
I think I had them I might have had them missing the playoffs. I don't remember.
You had them at you know what? I have that for you, my friend. When you make mistakes, I'm here to catch your stumbles.
Okay.
Don't you worry. You had them at a 9-8. You had them winning their division, but a 9-8. Not nearly as respectable as I did at 13-4.
Fair enough. But yes, that would give us Titans and the Bengals. That'd be the 1 and the 4. This is tough. I mean, the Titans defense has actually been playing pretty well this year. My boy Kevin Byard's having a nice season. I still think that, Derrick Henry might play. I think if Derrick Henry plays, the Titans win. But I'll ride with the Titans here.
Julio Jones just caught his first touchdown pass of the season last week in week 18. So I'm going to rock with the team who had back-to-back weeks where they had a receiver go over 190 yards. And I'm going to go.
Wow. Okay.
I like it. I like it.
I like the spunk. I like to see some upsets. But listen, only one team got a bye. The bye is even more important this year. And you're going to tell me they're going to have a bye and then get Derrick Henry back? I'm not going to pick against that team. I think the Titans beat the Bengals here.
I do think if Henry doesn't play, that the Bengals have a very good chance of winning. But
I feel I have a good chance. I have a good feeling that Henry's going to play.
Yeah. And then other side, we have the Chiefs and the Bills. This is tough.
This is the matchup everyone wanted going into the season. This is the matchup we all dreamed of.
If I recall, this was my AFC championship game.
I think me too.
I think, you're both good.
It's tough. You know what? I know the Chiefs are always going to be that team, but because of how weird this season is, you know what? I'm feeling the Bills. I'll take the Bills in the upset over the Chiefs.
Oh, look at you. Proud of you, Dakota. Way to go to buck the trend. Listen, the Bills have looked – the Chiefs had a very suspect year. They were definitely down at some points, but the Bills did too. Mahomes, this defense, more importantly, look hot. They look like they're ready to go. I think Kansas City pulls this one out. They've been there. They know what they're doing. They're waiting for the playoffs at this point with the crew they have. So I'm going with Kansas City.
All right.
I'm gonna stick to my original guns. I'm gonna keep rolling with KC. I'm just gonna say that Mahomes finds a way. It has not been a Mahomes-esque year.
Right.
It just hasn't. But I think they find a way. But I think this is going to be the last year. Their salary cap situation becomes a nightmare after this year, and I think this is the last ride for this group.
Fair enough. Hey, you know what? I'll tip your hat to you, Nick, because I have the same strategy. I had the Packers and Chiefs Super Bowl prediction going into the year as my preview. Considering they're both in the playoffs, I mean, just to gas myself up, I'm going to go stick with my original Super Bowl prediction. I'm not going to go against myself when it's a possibility.
All right. So you got Chiefs over the Titans, right?
I do. You know what? Things are kind of set. It's funny. You know what's good? It's funny because you mentioned that you expect them. I believe it was the first round. I forget when you said it. You said I expect the Chiefs to go down in the first half and come back. They beat the Titans and they beat the Bills, and they were, losing every first half on their way to the Super Bowl. This might, steer the ship back into what they did before when they won that Super Bowl. I think Nick was right. The salary cap situation might be a problem later, but this team's loaded. It's the same one we've seen go to the back-to-back Super Bowls, so I'm taking the Chiefs.
All right. Mine is the Titans and the Bills. I think the Titans have a nice story. I think at this point, if I have the Bills beating the Chiefs, I think they catch fire. So I'm gonna have the Bills and Josh Allen finally make it to the Super Bowl after many years of work and many years of roster construction. So I have a Bills Packers Super Bowl. That should be fun. Nick, you have the Bengals and the Chiefs, a little rematch.
Keep running the Chiefs. I think the Bengals feel really good about this year. I think it's a great season. That's a great run, make it to the AFC Championship. No knock losing to Mahomes on the way to the chip. And in a very good game, I find the Chiefs take out the win.
Cool. Yeah. So I would say most people would have predicted Chiefs Buccaneers rematch for this year at the start of the season. And now we all have, mostly different things, but Nick, you have returned to that same formula. So who do you got winning the Super Bowl? Are you still riding with the Brady magic?
So if you remember at the beginning of the year, what I said was I thought it would be an inverse. I thought one would win the MVP and one would win the Super Bowl.
I did say that. Yes,
I said that I thought that one would win the MVP and whatever one would win. Because Brady had the more MVP caliber season, I got to stick with what I said originally. He may not win. I'll probably go to Rodgers, but he'll be the runner-up. And I'll take Mahomes to stick with what I said and give him the flip. As much as it's hard to root against him, it's hard to do that. But it's what I said. I said they would split. One would win the MVP and one would win the Super Bowl. So, in a non-sexy year, in a year where no team had a sexy season, so the Chiefs figure it out.
Hey, you know what? Good call. Hey, stick to your guns. That's why I took the same approach and had the Packers versus the Chiefs. And I, don't want to bet against Mahomes and losing 2 Super Bowls in a row. But the Packers, to me, I think outside of week 1 have consistently shown that they're probably the best team in the NFL every single week. They've never really had a bad loss outside of week 1. I do expect them to get a trio of Pro Bowlers back at some point in the playoffs with Bakatari, Jair Alexander, and Zaire Smith. And they've just continued to dominate when they're out. Rasul Douglas has looked incredible in filling in. A.J. Dillon's looked good running the ball. Even Valdez Scanlon. They have a lot of guys step up. I think the Packers win this one. I hate to say it because the Rodgers drama is only going to amplify by a million. He'll probably host Jeopardy 1,000 times and do SNL and do all this other nonsense while he looks for a new team and then tell us all how it's his last dance. But the Packers have been the best team in my eyes all year consistently. They beat you on both ends, defense and offense. I think they do it. I think the Packers are set up to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, so my Super Bowl is Bills and Packers. And like I said, I think the Bills catch fire, but then the fire gets doused by the Packers and what could be Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, I would not be shocked if Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl and then was like, all right, peace, and finds a way to leave Green Bay or just flat out retires or something crazy. But I just feel like it's been in the cards this year for the Packers to win. So I have the Green Bay Packers as my 2022 Super Bowl champion.
So we got clean sweep on the Packers Super Bowl winners.
No, Tim has, or Nick has the Chiefs.
I have the Chiefs over the
Bucs. I apologize. Yeah, you're right. You said the MVP was the Packers. My bad. All right. Well, hey, we're both on there. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for some football. I'm excited the Eagles are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We got the GOAT the first round. If you can't get jacked up for the GOAT in the playoffs, then I can't help you. You know.
Well, before we end, I'm just trying to think. So no matter what, if the Eagles beat the Bucs, they then got to go to Lambeau. So
correct. No matter what,
if this is one of those wild years that a wild card team just runs train, like this would be historic to go through the 2 and the 1 seed. But
and the MVP and runner up most likely.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, crazier things have happened, right? Backup quarterbacks winning Super Bowls. So, but
hey, listen, the last time we played Tom Brady in the playoffs, we beat him. So it feels pretty good. There's something to be said about that.
We'll see. But this is a long episode, so thank you boys for sticking around. A lot of good insights, and it'll be a really exciting playoffs. We got some really good teams, especially on the NFC side. Be really competitive. So
looking forward to it.
All right. Peace out, everybody.
We'll do this again next week.
See you guys.